Greetings from Las Vegas. This is my 2023 Triumph Rally Explorer and 1200. And this is a summary of things I wish I knew the day I picked up the bike. Would have been great if there was more of a, I know you can go through video reviews and so on, but things that the dealer didn't mention, they were just happy to, make the sale and move on to the next customer. Very brief summary of what goes on with the bike. So it's really up to you to read the manual or video reviews online, things like that. There's a reason you purchased it to begin with, because you've done your research and this is the best fit for you. So for me, I have a whole list of things. I'm going to go over tips for new owners and things. I've had it for about 10 months now, and towards the end, some of the accessories I've put on it over that time as well. So first off, I've done this earlier, but I'm going to insert this. Getting it up on the center stand. It's intimidating because of the height and the weight of this thing, but here's a little clip of me 5 or 10 minutes ago putting it up on the center stand, and it's not pretty. I'm not very good at this yet. It's intimidating because of the size of this machine, but got to be able to get it up on the center stand occasionally, particularly when you're doing any kind of maintenance. And I've seen videos that talk about it's really supposed to be simple. You simply put down the center stand and stand on it, put all your weight on it. And I've done that a couple of times and it's worked. So they say raise the bike up, kind of somewhat level like this, grab the rear handle and just, we'll see how it goes, and put all your weight and just, I'm always nervous I'm going to drop it. Yeah, come on. Not the first time. Here we go. Put your weight on it, buddy. Almost. Come on. I need practice. I'm so paranoid. There we go. Woo! That's scary for me, but I got it. All right, now that it is up on the center stand, no harm. I'll use my excuse. I have a bum knee. I had an ACL reconstruction coming up on 2 years ago, so I can still hang on to that as a little bit of an excuse where I'm not as nimble as I used to be, not to mention the age. But one of the first things that happened on my way home from the dealer was, oh great, they didn't air up the tires. The tire pressure, the TPMS, tire pressure monitoring system, is telling me both tires are low. So instead of going back, we just found the first, I purchased this out of state. I live in Vegas, but I purchased this at a dealership in Arizona, Go AZ in Arizona. They have a bunch of them there. They had the model I wanted and the color I wanted in stock. Plus, it's a nice ride to ride home from there. It's like 250 miles or something like that. So stopped at a gas station, and then it's, geez, what's the recommended pressure for it? You find it online. It's typical, it's standard, 42 rear, 36 front for highway. So get it up to 42 and 36, back on the highway, and your TPMS warning messages disappear. Next up is gas. Well, you're at the gas station topping off the air in the tires because the dealer didn't think to do that before they handed it over to you. Topping off the fuel tank. This has a big 8-gallon tank, which is great. To open, you have to have the key in your pocket and the at least accessory mode turned on to open the, because right now the key's in my pocket and I can't open the gas cap, so that's a security thing. You just lift up on the tab there and gas cap pops open. In the owner's manual, now every car and motorcycle from the factory is tuned for a specific octane gas. So just saying I'm just going to put regular or premium in something doesn't make sense unless that's what it's tuned for. So in the manual, and I'll put a link to the manual down below in the description, page 76 of the owner's manual says always use unleaded fuel with a minimum octane rating of 95 RON, and that's European octane rating, which is the equivalent of 91 roughly in the US, which means premium. So it gets 40 miles to the gallon roughly, so premium gas is what you want to always put in this to keep it running, based on how the engine has been tuned, or how the system has been tuned for that octane. Now I've seen a little bit of confusion online about, some person had a summary of things thinking that you had to, I think it was in some Tiger forums, about you had to do a 3-stage with the button here to get it to start. In reality, I have the clutch pulled in. If you want, you just simply hold down all the way down on the starter here, and it starts. So that's one way to do it, is you don't have to sit there, and there were some complaints and a little confusion about how you'd have to go click, 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 and get all the way to a certain point before you could start it. That's not the case. You can just hold it down until it starts. The other option, and this is what I usually do, is I tap it once, I let the dash power up and my little add-on screen power up while I'm putting on my helmet, putting on my gloves, and by the time I've climbed onto the bike, then I grab the clutch and press it down one more time. And then it's started up and everything's already fully booted up and you're ready to hit the road. Now I'm not going to do a full deep dive on the interface, on the menus. There are some really good videos out there that already do that. I'm just going to go over a couple of quick things as a new owner that are useful, that I think are pretty useful. Some of the unfortunate things, in my opinion, oh good, of course there's a plane going overhead right now. You don't get any mileage indicators on the home screen. This seems crazy to me. There's no trip meter, no odometer, nothing. So everything requires drilling into submenus. So if you want the odometer, there's a little joystick right here that you navigate, you move this thing around and then you push in to make selections. So if you want to see your odometer, you have to go to the bike menu and then down to service, and there you go, 2,684 miles total. Tells you when your last service was and when your next service is due. Okay, that's great, but put the odometer on the home screen, man. What's the story there? And then the trip meters, you come back to the journey menu and then the trip sub-menu, and you get your trip menus there. You got a couple of them that you can reset. Usually the best place that I've found for, moving this around, is fuel status, is the one I usually leave it on. So this will tell you what your overall miles per gallon, current miles per gallon, and how many miles you have left on your tank. Really nice. And typically, when it's closer to full, you're looking right around 300 miles on a tank, which is fantastic. It will always revert to this screen every time you restart the bike though. So, but if you do a tap of your joystick to the right, it will go back to whatever you last, of course it didn't do it this time. It'll go back to whatever you last had it on. So that is probably because I backed out of it manually. So this is kind of useful when you're riding and you always know how many more miles you have left. Then there's turn-by-turn navigation and app connectivity. Don't bother. I've had a number of, there's a number of forums and a number of videos out there about connecting your phone to this thing and trying to use the GPS integration and turn-by-turn navigation in here. Most people are just either going with a Garmin or a CarPlay / Android Auto, or just mounting your cell phone somewhere if you're comfortable with that. So it's a big, beautiful screen, but really lacking in design. I don't think you'll get much argument there. It's a real shame. It could be corrected, but I don't see that happening. This is my first bike with cruise control, and oh, it's so nice. For long trips, you think, oh, it's a motorcycle, what do you, oh man, it's so great to be able to release that right hand from the throttle side, and just, so there's real simple. It's, you know, tap it once to engage it, tap it again for set, tap it up here for resume, and then this is accelerate, decelerate. And then the one tip that I learned from, oh, I think this was also from some of these Tiger forums. Man, there's so much great information in those. If you want to release the cruise control, you can tap the brake, which is kind of a bummer because you really nosedive with that. But the recommended way to do it is you roll your throttle forward just slightly, and it releases cruise control without, and then you immediately start decelerating, but it's not that nosedive thing you get if you do it with by tapping the brakes. So there are ride modes, a bunch of different ride modes on here, and there's right here, there's a button for it that is a ride mode dedicated button. You can scroll through ride modes on the interface if you take the stick and move it over, and boy, I don't even remember where the heck the ride modes are in here because I always use the dedicated button for it. But if you go to, you tap the button and you get sport. When I'm in town and stuff, I usually have it on sport, but if I go out on the highway, I put it in normal. So if you keep tapping the ride mode, and of course it's not going to do it now because it may have to be running for this. Let me start this thing up and see if that's the case. Okay, hopefully you can hear me over the engine in this. So as I'm scrolling through ride modes, rider, rain, road, sport, off-road, off-road pro, and then back to rider. And then if you hold the ride mode button down, it'll select it. So there you go. Now we're in road mode instead of sport, which was what we were in earlier. If you are in the dirt, then use dirt mode. I have had another ride recently where it was my first time going on any kind of a lengthy dirt road, and the engine, it scared me at first. I thought the engine was dying. The whole bike was losing power, and I realized, oh, the back tire was spinning a little bit, so ABS was kicking in, and the whole thing just started, and it had happened another time when I was starting to go up a hill, and it was a little bit slippery, and I was starting to worry, you know, am I gonna even get up this hill? So if you're, I'd say more than a mile on a dirt road, stop and put this bike into dirt mode, because you do have to be completely stopped for that. The other modes, you can switch between modes while you're riding, and then it'll say to engage, release the throttle. So you just let go of the throttle and let it go somewhat idle as you're rolling, and then boom, it's switched, and then continue riding. With dirt mode, you have to come to a complete stop because it's disengaging the ABS and stuff like that. Tires. The stock tires on this are not horrible. They are Metzler tires, Metzler Karoo. And from what I read, ooh, that's a noisy chair. From what I read, these are, if I look at my little summary here, these are 60-40, 70-30 tires. So primarily oriented towards street, but they're not horrible on dirt. Some of the top recommendations I've seen from reading through forums again are Dunlop Trail Max Mission, Bridgestone AT1 or AT41, and Continental TKC 70. And then there are some others, and of course a lot of times that just comes down to when you go to your local shop, hey, it's time to get some new tires. What do they have in stock? What's available? But there are a number of good choices out there. These have been fine on street. I don't know that the tread pattern on those, I don't know that I would call this really all that great for for dirt, but so far most of the riding has been on street anyway. So that's the story on the tires. While we're down here on this side of the bike, there's another simple tip that is the foot pegs. I prefer off-road style foot pegs to these ones with the rubber inserts, but as it turns out, these are, they go both ways. So you can pull the stock rubber inserts out of the foot pegs and you end up with this. And that's pretty nice when you're looking for a little bit more of a bite and not worrying about keeping your foot on slippery rubber if you get a little mud or rain or whatever you get on these, on your boots or on the bottom of your feet, and worry about slipping off of that. So really, really nice surprise when you're shopping for foot pegs and then somebody in one of the forums goes, why don't you just pull out the rubber inserts? Okay. So this one threw me a little bit. It is, hey man, what is that? You look at that at first and you go, cool, 12 volt power, AC. But then when you get a little closer to it, well, of course, cool would be an actual USB-A or USB-C port. But when you look at it, I don't know if we can actually see that very well here. There you go. That is not what we're used to here in the US. Hey, this is a British bike, right? So that's a European 12 volt plug. You can get power plugs or, cigarette lighter adapters is one thing that we call them, usually here in the US, but you can get those on Amazon. There's a whole bunch of options for those. But man, you get these little thin connector part on it, and then they all seem to have this larger piece that sticks out because the piece that goes in is so small, and it just felt like it was just going to rattle itself out. I don't know if that's the case or not. So anything I have had to run power to, I ended up running to power ports, just running a wire under the mold or under the body panels and under the back seat. So that's what that is. And again, thanks Triumph for the not so great job on the screen, and we just want USB-C or A here. Come on, nobody wants that anymore. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy, but those are a couple of the little complaints. Talking about powering the add-on screen instead of using the 12 volt adapter, running wires through the body panels and up into the back, where do you plug those things in? So under the passenger seat, there's this really weird, goofy thing that there's a USB port in here. I use this to keep my registration and a spare battery for my key fob, just in case battery in the key fob ever dies. Boom, there's a spare with a wrench to get into it. But there is a USB port in here, and I think their idea is, and I've already unscrewed this for the ease of this video, but I think they're thinking you're going to put your cell phone in here and plug it in and charge it. I don't know what kind of a crazy mind comes up with something like that, but absolutely no sense at all. So underneath that, you can, there's the USB port that was in this. You can just pop it out and run the cord with a USB cord all the way up to, through the body panels up to the front of the bike. And that's how I originally did it. However, this one doesn't actually power on until the engine is running. which is okay, but it's kind of a bummer when you click on the initial step to get the bike started. Before you start the bike, the screen doesn't come on, and it's nice if you can have that come on. So there's also another 12-volt port for a passenger, or for your, I think some people will use this to plug it into their saddlebags and stuff. Oh, and by the way, your passenger also has a heated seat with buttons to control it right there. I forgot to mention that earlier. So I unplugged the power to the 12-volt adapter here, and was lucky enough to find a friend had this, a matching connector, and ran this wire all the way up to the front, and that is what plugs into my CarPlay Android Auto screen. So as soon as I tap the power on the handlebar here, boom, this comes on at the same time as the dash, and it's ready to go when I'm ready to, once I have my helmet and my gloves on and stuff. So just a little extra tip there. This one powers up quicker than this one, but they're both usable. So the headlights on this thing are pretty good, but you know what else is really nice? Whoa. Fog lights. So another great way to increase visibility at night is turn on those fog lights. Now, oh, hey, guess what? Now they're staying on without all the engine noise. So it makes the bike wider to other people in the dark. They have a strange shape on the pavement, but anything to make you more visible to the other people, that's not a bad thing. So those have been, on the way home from work at night, if it's dark out, those have become a default. Turn those on. You have to turn them on every time you start the bike again, though, just like the dashboard. They won't just remember that they're supposed to stay on. So here's another one that I have not had before on any previous bikes, and that is grip warmers and hand warmers. I don't think these are standard on the Rally Pro, but they are on the Rally Explorer. And you have a multi-stage button here. You just tap this repeatedly. And then if you look over at the screen as you're tapping it, just like you'd have in a car, it goes through 3 different high, medium, low, and then off again. And then there's also up here next to the fog light buttons, there's the seat warmer button. Same thing. You tap that, you get, looks like that's a 2-stage. You get warm, a little warm, and off. So that is also really nice. It's one of those where you kind of, after a while, you're riding and you go, what are those buttons up there? Oh, fog light and seat warmers. Very cool. When I first bought this, I thought, I'm getting this model because I'm getting a new one this time, and I'm getting one that's already the way I want it. I'm not changing anything. There aren't going to be accessories or modifications. I'm just going to ride it as is because it's really badass the way it is. Yeah, like anybody can never really stick to that promise. So even if you keep it for 3 or 5 years, there's always going to be a little bit of personalization you want to do. So one of the first things I did, I always like to do these on these larger bikes, is a kickstand extender that makes the foot of the kickstand a little bit bigger. So if we come down here, this is from SW It simply bolts on and it spreads out the the pattern, or it makes it wider. So if you're in rocky, sandy, dirt type area, you get a little bit more of a footprint. Less times you have to go searching for a big rock to put your kickstand on. Also from SW same order as the other thing, just because I thought it's coming from it's a German supplier, and you never know how long these things are going to take to get here. So brake reservoir guard. So just a little extra protection down there. Next up are the, also from SW Motec, this is a handguard replacement. I have a whole video on installing these and my thoughts about them. They are, the ones that the bike comes with are worthless. They're plastic and they're flimsy, and the first time the bike tips over and lands on them, they flex or they shatter, and then your levers are exposed to be broken and, you know, giving you all kinds of trouble while you're out there. So this is another nice option and a competitor for bark busters. So these are, honestly, because of how long they took, I would probably recommend bark busters over these, but I like the looks of these mostly still. So and they're solid, so these will be keepers. This is a really simple one. Doesn't come with a tank pad right here, so this is an OEM Triumph tank pad. So when you're sitting, you know, climbing on the bike, when you're riding, whatever, if you're standing and sitting and you potential for scratching the tank up right here, this is a nice protector for you know, keeping zippers and belt buckles and all that from scratching up the tank. And also it's just another piece of padding which makes the overall experience a little better. So OEM tank pad from Triumph. Next up are handlebar risers. These are, I believe these are 20 millimeter, and there are actually two spots where the handlebar, this whole piece can be mounted. There's a bolt hole here, which is factory, it's up here. You can't put it back here unless you have a riser, because otherwise you'll start smacking into the tank. So you get these, oh, what's the name of the company here? It's called Voigt Moto Technic 20 millimeter handlebar risers. Links for all this stuff will be in the description. Really simple. You just pull off the 4 bolts on the top here, and then there's 2 more large bolts that get pulled off here, and they give you replacement bolts that are a little bit longer to make up for the difference. And it brings your handlebars a little bit closer to you. Kind of nice, and it still looks pretty good. You hardly even notice that it's not, you know, that anything's been changed from factory. All right, this next piece was particularly useful if you want to mount a GPS or your cell phone. The one that they give you from the factory is a plastic one. It's not bad, and it's pretty solid, but this one is a nice standard metal, it's steel, thickness here, steel or aluminum, I don't know. 2 bolts, super simple to swap out, still super functional for, you know, raising and lowering your windscreen, but you can mount, quad lock is very popular for cell phones, especially if you have the steering dampener or the vibration dampener on that. So you can mount your cell phone right here if you prefer to have that. I did that a little bit, but GPS, you can put a Garmin up here or a CarPlay Android Auto unit if you like it up here. What I found though is this whole tower here does vibrate somewhat, because it's just, that's just how it is. So if you do put something up here, just understand there's going to be a certain amount of vibration while you're riding, and that might make it a little less pleasant to check your maps, your GPS while you're moving if it's vibrating. I always struggle with this stuff with form versus function versus, is it too big, is it too small, is it too heavy? And I haven't gotten side bags yet, because they're saddle bags yet, because normally I'm riding, when I go out, I'm with cars, like with my wife and her Corvette. So I can put most of my stuff in her Corvette, but sometimes I'm on my own. So this is GIVI or GIVI, it's GIVI, European brand, and they are also the manufacturer that makes Triumph OEM bags that you can buy from the dealers. So good quality stuff. I like the smaller size. There'll be a link for this in the description as well. I suggest, I looked all over, don't buy it in the US. There's a company called Motocard, M-O-T-O-C-A-R-D, and that's what the link will be for. Dramatically lower price than it was from domestic resellers. This was, what did I have here? Case was $250 from USA Retail, and the mount was $218. This was $337 delivered for everything. So it would have been, it's about $100 or more cheaper to order it from a European reseller Motocard than it is to buy it here in the US. And shipping was fast. It was within a week or two. So great experience with that, and I've been really happy with it. So that is, and it's a single key. Actually, let me get my key for that, and I'll show opening and closing and stuff. It's really simple. I'm not here to do a review on the whole thing, but it's helpful to see just how convenient it is. So they call this mono key, and I think they also, what do they call it? Weightless. And I think what is the model on this? This is the WL901. So it opens up, and there's actually an expando section on the side right here. So you can actually unzip it and expand it a little higher. So you can fit your helmet in if you want to. There's also a spot where you can secure the zipper into this piece here, and there's 3-number combination across the bottom, but you know, that's only deterring honest people basically. But then if you want to just take it with you, it's a single key. You just turn the key and bam, the whole thing comes right off and you carry it in with you. So really not bad for, you know, when you don't need a whole bunch of luggage for a long distance trip, like in my case where I can usually put most of my stuff in my wife's car anyway, so I don't need all the extra stuff yet. Here's another one, simple 4 bolts. I have a short video on installing this. I just recently added this headlight guard from a company called Hepco and Becker. There are a number of brands out there that make headlight guards for these things, but this is the one that I particularly liked. And the reason for it is these headlights, the one reseller I've seen online sells them for over $1,000 for the headlight. So if you want to protect it from that, you know, roost or rock that might get thrown up from one of your friends on a dirt road or dirt trail or something, this is highly recommended. It's about $100 to save you from replacing a $1,000 component. One other piece that I'm still on the fence, it's probably the last one I can think of aside from potentially getting some full saddlebags, is highway pegs. You can mount, I don't want something way up high. I'm thinking about maybe mounting something down here. It looks like the best option for that is from a company called Alt Rider. I think that's what it's called. And they mount here, they mount wherever you want to mount them. I think it's a 1-inch diameter mounting unit. It's a universal thing. But then you have the ability to, you can rotate how you have it mounted. So it'll extend out, universally adjustable. So you get it to where it's right for you when it comes out, and then so that allows you to put it on any of these different angles, whatever makes sense for you. So maybe not sure. I haven't done any really long trips yet that warrant needing to stretch those legs out, but I'm sure those are coming. Last item on the accessories list here is the aftermarket screen here for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I've been using Android Auto for, there we go, 8 or 9 years now in my car. So basically as soon as it came out, you can even put a Triumph boot logo on this particular one if you want. So kind of nice. So I like to have the same interface in my car as on my motorcycle. Less thinking, less dangerous. So you put in your trip on your phone, hop on your bike, boom, you're good to go. For me, I initially had it mounted up here on this aftermarket bar from what was that from? Osmo or Cosmo Accessories. Just like Cosmo Kramer. And it was a little vibraty up there, so I ended up mounting it down here with ram mount balls instead. Oh, quick tip on that too, by the way. Ram mount makes these alternate mounts that are somewhat secure. You have to have another piece to tighten it down. So instead of just the typical knob, if you don't have that other piece, it's a lot more difficult to steal this when it's unattended. So just a thought there. There are a lot of different brands. This one is the brand called CarPlay. I hate the name, so I'm just weird. I cover it up with a piece of black label tape just because that little stuff drives me nuts. But GIVI is another popular brand, CHIGEE. This one, if I'd have realized there's a Pro model. This is the 5-inch. They also make 7-inch models. If I'd realized they have a Pro model that also has a brightness sensor in it so that it'll automatically dim its brightness when it gets darker out, which is great because without that, Google Maps and the whole thing has no idea that it's time to go into dark mode for the map. So you still have this bright white map shining you in your face, but it's not that big of a deal. You can also, there's a power button on the side. You just hold it down for a few seconds and the whole thing shuts off if it's driving you crazy and you're just driving home from work. So, and these things, Cyber Monday sales, Prime Day sales, Black Friday sales, these things are constantly going, or find reviewers that there are 1 million reviews on these things. The company's really aggressive on these, and you can get like 30% off deals if you go through other people's YouTube channels who have reviewed these things. So you can get pretty sweet deals on these things. So, but really nice to have, and about 90% reliable. It's almost always it's fine. Every once in a while it'll disconnect, but the cars do that too. It's because it's wireless Android Auto, so it's not a perfect technology yet, the whole wireless thing, but man, when it works, it sure is nice. One last thing. So you got it up here. You got it up on the center stand, right? Now it's time to get it down. First time I did this, I'm struggling again. Now they say you can climb up on top, sit on it and kind of rock it until it goes forward, or just grab the handlebars and push it forward. For me, what I found that makes the most sense is I put my foot, because my floor is a little slippery here, put my foot in front of the center stand and rock it a little bit and give it a push, and then down it goes. I just gotta, make sure that the brake is ready. So here we go. Yeah, not too bad. Down we go with the kickstand, and ta-da! So, all right, I'm getting better at the lowering it. I just need more practice on getting it up on the center stand. And that wraps it up. I hope this was useful for you. If you have questions about any of the accessories or suggestions I've made in the video, feel free to mention it in the comments, and if I have an answer, I'll try and give an answer for that. But hopefully this has been useful for new riders, or if you're trying to make your decision on this. Yes, I would choose this again. It's between, if you're interested in the European adventure bikes, it's between the BMW and the Ducati in this. And for me, this was my preference among those three. But that's it's like religion between those. Depending on which one you prefer, it's all about your own passion. So they're all great choices. I've been super happy with this, and intend to keep it for no plans on trading it in or selling it anytime in the future. So I'm going to put a whole lot more miles on this, and no more accessories. I promise. Until the next one.